Al-Qaeda, a group that once struck terror into the hearts of unbelievers, has been reduced to a gaggle of social justice warriors striving for attention. They're now waging relevance jihad. They're fighting for relevance because ISIS took all their best recruits, and those recruits died while slaughtering unbelievers in the name of Allah. Al-Qaeda now sees a chance for a comeback, but this comeback may be the most pathetic thing we've seen since Sheikh Yasser Qadi tried to backtrack on his claim that the standard narrative of the preservation of the Quran has more holes in it than Osama bin Laden after a brief meeting with SEAL Team 6. Let's read about the once mighty Al-Qaeda using the death of George Floyd for its terrorist propaganda. Memory reports. On June 29, 2020, Al-Qaeda's general leadership issued a letter addressing the vulnerable people of the U.S. and the West in general in light of the current protests and unrest in the U.S. and Europe following the killing of George Floyd while in Minneapolis police custody on May 25, 2020. From the Jihad Jamaat group to the oppressed, the vulnerable, and the revolutionaries of the American people and the rest of Western people, we have watched, like the rest of the world, the suffering that George Floyd went through before he died, oppressed under the foot of his arrogant killer, who did not blink an eye when he killed him and destroyed the hearts of billions around the world, said the letter. This is coming from a group that slaughters men, women, and children in the name of Allah. The letter then commended the American people for responding to George Floyd's rescue appeal when he shouted, "I can't breathe." Their protests against racists and the arrogant White House brought joy to the group, said the letter. Pointing to the similarities between Islam and the protesters, the letter highlighted that Islam rejects injustice regardless of race. We were pleased to see vulnerable people rejecting and repelling injustice because our religion seeks firmly to free people from worshiping another human being and invites them instead to worship the creator of human beings. We invite you to worship the creator of human beings. He allows you to beat your wives into submission and to have sex with prepubescent girls and to rape your female captives. No injustice here. It continued by noting several incidents from the Quran involving prophets, such as the story of the prophet Musa, Moses, who revolted against Pharaoh, Jesus, who rebelled against priests, and finally the story of the prophet Muhammad, who completed the journey of his predecessors when he took their holy message beyond the borders of the tribes and the region, giving it a wider scope that grew to reach all human beings and the whole planet. Addressing non-Muslims residing in Western countries, the letter emphasized that the rejection of injustice is a shared religious and human principle, and one which all of mankind is subjected to, including Al-Qaeda, because of the ill practices of the tyrant Western rulers. Therefore, the letter urged Westerners to force their governments to return to the rule of law. If they do not, people should revolt against them and establish justice with their own hands. It further warned that revolution is imminent because it is an instinct for those who are oppressed. People definitely don't like being oppressed. That's why Muslims are fleeing Muslim countries and moving to the West. Far less oppression in non-Muslim countries. After citing several examples of other prophets from the Quran, the letter once more urged the American people to revolt against the rulers of the White House from both parties, Democrats and Republicans, as well as against blood-sucking bank owners, giant corporations, and those behind them, the oppressive racists whose sole objective is to secure their personal interests, enslave entire nations, including the Americans, and steal the resources of your states as their income without benefiting the residents of these states. The letter then argued that Al-Qaeda's fight against the U.S. is part of a larger war against injustice. Know that our fighting against you, the American people, is to repel injustice and tyranny. It is similar to your reaction to the killing of Floyd and his ancestors. The letter added that Muslim nations have suffered for decades under the oppression of your tyrants, your killing of our children and women, your theft of our resources, and your desecration of our sacred places. We desecrated their sacred places. How did Muslims get the Kaaba? They took it from pagans. How did Muslims get the Temple Mount? They took it from Jews. How did Muslims get Hagia Sophia? They took it from Christians. But they're somehow the victims of us desecrating their sacred places. Poor Al-Qaeda. The statement then called on protesters to convert to Islam, saying that the religion of Islam is the religion whose glad tiding was conveyed by Jesus because it is a religion which ensures that people live in freedom, dignity, and peace and doesn't allow discrimination of any sort between white and black. After stressing the call to convert to Islam, the statement said that defending the oppressed among you and us is an integral part of our religion, and there is no contradiction between this call to convert and our fight against the oppressors. The statement concluded by wishing that Western readers and the entire world may attain the acceptance of Allah and succeed in entering the spacious paradise which Allah has prepared for His faithful, pious, and just worshippers. And may the Sun of Islam, the Sun of Justice, Freedom, and Peace, rise on all corners of the world. Wow, wow, wow. Muhammad bought, owned, sold, and traded black African slaves. He called Ethiopians raisin heads. He said that Satan looks like a black man. He said that if you dream about a black woman, it's because a plague is coming. Under Sharia, it's a death penalty to say that Muhammad was black. And Al-Qaeda, a terrorist organization, is using Black Lives Matter protests to try to convert people to Islam. Instead of flying planes into buildings or blowing up train stations, Al-Qaeda is now writing letters of support. Keep writing, Al-Qaeda, because your religion, much like your terrorist organization, is crumbling.